There was a major change from CS3 to CS4 in how we do the color adjustment layers. So I'd like to show you the difference between how we do it in the later versions and how we used to do it in CS3 and previous versions of Photoshop CS. I'm going to start with how we work with it now. I'm making an adjustment layer either from the adjustment panel, which has, for example, brightness and contrast, levels, curves. Now I'm going to make a curve, which is what I do most often. And you see here that you don't get an actual dialog, you get a dialog sitting here in the panels. So I'm going to lift that up, do a little swing of the curve there. Now there's no need for me to actually press enter or OK when I'm done. All I need to do is move on and make another curve if I like. I could do that through pressing this arrow here and getting back to this. I'm going to do that for this one. I'm going to press curve again, and this time I'm going to change the blending mode of it. I'm going to scroll directly from normal to soft light. And if you are familiar with the old way of working, you know that you would have before had to make the adjustment, clicking OK, doing nothing to the actual adjustment, and then you could blend it in the layers panel here to soft light. With this one, the curve is still fully open. I could still modify this curve. So that's quite a big difference, and it actually does save some time. You're not always double clicking on these. So basically your mask is always active here, and you just continue making another adjustment layer. In this case, I'm not going to bother to click on this arrow here. I'm not madly keen on this interface that has two faces. I'm going to now just scroll up to a hue saturation perhaps. And I see the saturation of the eyes is maybe a little bit over the top, so I would then go here to the blues. But there is another way of doing it here. In the new behavior, I can go back to the master and simply just target the blues by clicking on this on image adjustment tool, and I can then pull the blues towards the left here, and that takes the saturation down. Now it's not as good at targeting the right kind of blues as it would be if I did it the old way, which would be, I'm just going to Command Z here to undo what I just did, to go to the blues and then click on the eyedropper here and then click on the particular flavor of blue that we want to affect. And you see there was a move here in this ramp, and I would then desaturate that. Now there's a fine difference there, but when it's crucial, it really does make a difference. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to go to the magentas perhaps, so I can then click on the lips, and if you follow that ramp, you see a movement towards the right on the ramp there. And in that one I can maybe change the color slightly more pink or more yellow to get more natural lips. Another thing, going back to the curves, I can now just click on the curves here, and I'm going to take the points off my curve there. On this one I'm going to use that target tool that I mentioned, and I call it target tool, but Photoshop actually calls it the on image adjustment tool, which for me is just too much of a mouthful. So I'm going to find a highlight that I think can do with bringing up a bit. I think here on the side of her cheek, and I can just literally pull that upwards. Now there was a behavior that you may remember, command clicking in the curve, or actually command clicking on the image, and that would put a point on the curve. You could use the up key to lift the points upwards. Well, you can still do that. Now that I have that highlighted, I've just lifted it up one tap there. I'm going to find a tone here that I think I can darken. I'm just going to go into her hair a little bit here, and that finds a representative tone on that particular level here, and that has dragged it down, or rather I have dragged the cursor downwards in the image. So dragging the cursor upwards in the image lightens it, and dragging it downwards lowers it and darkens it. And again, I can control it even better by just tapping with the keyboard arrow. There is no legacy behavior for command clicking, but I think if you just spend a few minutes getting used to this works really well. The design of it may be the problem, that it actually takes up a little bit too much space on your computer desktop, but that's a completely different matter. Now, if you want to make your curve bigger, you can actually expand it here, but that means that you also expand the whole panel section here. And to bring it back, you click back on that button there. Now let me quit this and go into CS3 and show you how you can adapt these tutorials. Now in CS3, the first thing you see here is that there is no adjustments panel. So if I'm making a curves adjustment, I make it from the little button here, and I go up to curves, and a dialog opens. If I want to control the exact tonality, I need to hold down the command key and click on an area of interest in the face. In this case, I want to lighten the highlights a little bit on the basis of this color in the face. So I use the up arrows, the up key on the keyboard to lift that. Again, I want to sample a color, command and clicking in her hair, and that sets a point on the curve graph. So using the down key to control that. I still get my curve up here, but if I want to edit that any further, I will have to double click it and do my edit and then close it down. I'm going to make another curve, and this one is the one I want to blend to soft light. So I need to OK it before I can then scroll down and blend that to soft light. When it comes to hue saturation, I make the adjustment layers here. We can of course go from the menu to make the adjustments, but it does actually take a little bit longer to do. You've got no target tool here, so the behavior would be always to go for the range you think you're going to be wanting to work with. So I'd go to the blues, and this is automatically now set, so I don't have to actually click on that tool. I just need to click on the eye, and you see the movement of the ramp there moving over and desaturating that a bit. The same goes for example, the magentas. I'm just trying to do exactly what I did on the previous one. I can click on the magentas there and drive them a little bit more towards a natural color, or an unnatural color if you want, and OK that. So that really sums up the difference in behavior between newer versions and older versions. And if you are working with older versions of Photoshop, you can still adapt the tutorials very easily, but you have to think about how you work with the adjustment layers.